Have you ever stumbled across those street corner showdowns where Muslim preachers try to trip up unsuspecting Christians? You know the drill. They whip out supposed Bible contradictions like, how many horses did Solomon really have? King says this, Chronicles says that. It's the classic, our book is flawless, yours is full of errors argument. But guess what? This whole tactic actually reveals a major blind spot in how they understand the Christian faith. Honestly, those little apparent number mix-ups in the Old Testament, they're not exactly keeping me up at night. I'm not about to lose my faith over a few digits because they don't really change the main message of the Bible. Even if every single one of them turned out to be a genuine oops moment, it wouldn't unravel the whole Christian faith. And that's because Christianity isn't hanging its hat solely on the Bible being 100% error-free the way Islam does with the Quran. We believe the Bible is inspired by God, sure, but it was also copied down by real people with all their flaws and foibles. It's not like the Quran, which Muslims believe was literally dictated by God, word for word, dot for dot. Ironically, there were actually multiple versions of the Quran floating around back in the day, many of which were destroyed by a guy named Uthman, but that's a whole other can of worms. Here's another thing. Christians aren't expected to have every single Bible question figured out perfectly. Every belief system, even atheism, has its own head scratchers. It's all about weighing the evidence. Are the reasons for believing stronger than the reasons against? That's why one can totally believe in Christianity even if they don't have a snappy comeback for every little Bible challenge that someone throws at them. But here's where things take a wild turn. Muhammad, being illiterate, actually believed the Torah and Gospels from his time were predicting his grand entrance. Spoiler alert, they weren't. And no, there's no grand conspiracy to cover up any supposed shoutouts to him. This major screw-up is way more problematic than any number-crunching game a Muslim street preacher can throw our way, as I've talked about in another video. But again, I digress. Let's get down to brass tacks. Let's take a closer look at some of the supposed Bible blunders our Sheikh friends love to throw around. One of their favorites, the age of Ahaziah when he took the throne in Jerusalem. 2 Kings 8:26 claims that he was 22, but 2 Chronicles 22:2 says he was 42. Hold up though, this is probably just a case of a tired scribe misreading some ancient handwriting. In the original Hebrew text, numbers were written out as words, not numerals. So picture this, a sleepy scribe squinting at letters and seeing Mem, 40, and Kaf, 20. Easy mistake, right? Plus, older translations like the Syriac, Arabic, and Septuagint all say Ahaziah was 22 or 20, meaning they were probably working from earlier, more accurate Hebrew texts. And let's not forget Ahaziah's dad, Jehoram, kicked the bucket at age 40. Unless Ahaziah was some kind of time traveler, there is no way he was already 42 when his dad died. Another supposed head-scratcher is Jehoiakim's age when he became king. 2 Kings 24:8 says 18 years old, but 2 Chronicles says he was only 8 years old. Now, Jehoiakim was probably 18 considering his actions described in 2 Kings 24:9, and he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father had done. Ezekiel 19:5-9 also paints a picture of a rebellious young king destroying towns, more fitting for an 18-year-old than an 8-year-old. This discrepancy is likely another case of a scribal slip-up. In the Hebrew numbering system, a tiny mark could easily be the difference between 8 and 18. Our Muslim friends also like to bring up Solomon's horses. 1 Kings 4:26 claims he had a whopping 40,000, while 2 Chronicles 9:25 has a more modest 4,000. Now, I'm no horse whisperer, but 40,000 seems a tad excessive, even for a king as dripped out as Solomon. This looks like another copyist error in the making. Interestingly enough, some Greek versions of 1 Kings 4:26 also say 4,000, which backs up this theory. Now you might be thinking, hold on a minute, if these scribes were so trigger happy with their quills, why didn't they just tidy up these obvious errors and make everything matchy-matchy? It's actually a great question, and it actually strengthens the case for the Bible's faithful preservation, not weakens it. Think about it. If these texts were constantly being revised and freely edited to say whatever the scribes want, wouldn't these glaring inconsistencies have been smoothed over? The fact that they weren't suggests that the scribes actually took their job very seriously. It didn't feel like they were just at liberty to wing it. So the usual Muslim argument of corruption kind of backfires, doesn't it? Now, let's tackle one that's a bit trickier. The number of warriors in Israel. 2 Samuel 24:9 says it was 800,000, but 1 Chronicles 21:5 bumps it all the way to 1.1 million. That's a lot of dudes with swords. But before we cry foul, let's dig a little bit deeper. 2 Samuel specifies that these were valiant men, which sounds like seasoned warriors, while 1 Chronicles may be counting all men who could swing a sword, even the newbies. Bible scholar Gleason Archer has a pretty good theory. He thinks that the extra 300,000 in 1 Chronicles could be reserve troops, the guys who hadn't seen battle yet. It's like the difference between the starting lineup and the whole team's roster. Archer's explanation might not have all the nitty-gritty details, but it does make those numbers fit together a whole lot better. Look, even if we couldn't explain every single one of these alleged contradictions, again, it just wouldn't change the core of Christianity one bit. We see similar discrepancies in reliable historical counts all the time. Take the Battle of Pharsalus. Historians of the time disagreed on the number of troops involved, but nobody doubts the battle happened or that Caesar won. So no, the truth of Christianity isn't riding on whether Solomon had 4,000 horses or 40,000. It's about the historical fact of Jesus' resurrection, confirmed by multiple sources and different lines of historical evidence. That's the main event, and it's rock solid. So don't let the Dawagandists smoke and mirrors fool you.